Hey, welcome to the DBB channel. Today I do have Kenneth with me. He's going to go through with me his armor release deck, released in BT9. It's a very interesting deck, I would say, because it doesn't have the OTK presence like other decks. But without further ado, let me introduce Kenneth for him to actually introduce his deck. You can start by introducing the Digitama first.
Hi, so it's for Upamon and one of this guy. Upamon just lets you draw, so I feel like we need a 4, and then this guy just gains 1k if it's a level 4 on both turns. So there are some turns where it makes a difference for the 1k and they can't trade the bodies as they like lah. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the roofies then.
But 4 and 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so 4 jamming Digimon because it's just good attacks.
Okay.
And they can't stop it. And then 3 of the free searcher.
Yeah.
So most of the deck just contains free Digimon. So it's almost a guaranteed search unless you hit into Tamers and options. And then 3 of this dual color searcher. Yeah, so basically they search for any dual color, so you can search for Magna X, which this guy can't do. And then 4 of this guy that lets you draw a card for if you have 7 or less cards in your hand.
Is there a reason why you don't play the EX1 Vmon?
The one
that restands and gains you a memory.
I feel like the one that gains memory is very good, but it's also not usable early game, so I don't really want to see it. So like everything here is like if you see it, it can be used immediately lah. So like for this early game, you wouldn't have 8 cards immediately in your hand, so this will trigger. This one is just for early game attacks, and then this 2 is for searching lah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing for the rookies. We're now moving on to the level 4, which is actually the main thing, the armor release himself.
Okay, so we have 3 flame draw. This one I choose to run 3 because I would run 4, but I feel like there's no space. But this is what you want to see early game for some early attacks that cannot be stopped lah, because 8k is 8k on your turn when it's attacking. So it actually can get away with some free hits. And then 4 Raydra. This is just good because it's blue and green. So and it's also good to clear enemy rookies when they just hardcore on their first turn and all that lah. So it's a good clear. So that's why it's 4. And I played 2 of this because in the level 5 I played Chimera. So and it's also a very good 3 cost Digimon to hard play when you have a blue lah. So it's 3 cost when you have a blue, which is almost all the time. So you can just progress immediately lah. And then of course there'll be 4 Magnamon. It's basically the main style of the deck because it's an armor deck after all. So yeah, it's a blocker which is not common in the meta now. So it's actually quite a good store against other decks, and then it gains 2k for each armor in your drop zone. So it can hit rested Digimon quite easily on its own. And the power also stays on until the end of your opponent's next turn. So they can't really they don't have a free hit after this comes out.
Sorry, I do have one question though. Is there a reason why you don't actually play the XVmon or Stingmon? Like, because I do see some other lists that actually play the Pale Dramon package. So is there a reason why you actually prefer the Ankylomon over it?
I feel like if I have to play the Pale Dra package, it's actually taking up a lot of cards. So let's say if I have to play the XV, that's 4 cards already. And then we have to play Stingmon, which is, if you're playing the package, I feel like it has to be a 4/4 to be consistent, which I don't really want. And then while the XV jamming is good, but it can be cleared easily lah. So after you jam, you attack with a jamming, the opponent can clear it very easily because it's just a 4k. Yeah, so I'm trying to increase the armor count because it's more sticky on the board lah.
Okay, so let's move on to the level 5 and level 6 of the deck then, which is actually quite interesting because he actually plays Chimeramon.
Okay, for level 5, I only play three cards, which is Chimera. So I feel like Chimera is a very good card in this deck because your level 4s are very sticky. And so, let's say if your level 4 die because of Armor Purge, you have a level 3 ready to digivolve with the level 4 to progress again. And then there's also this card. It's a 3 cost. So let's say you already have a armor here. And then it's just 3 costs, and then you can progress for another attack, or you can just minus the DP of your enemy Digimon. And also because the minus DP stays until the end of your opponent's turn, so it's actually a very good ability. And also the combo between this is because once it's inside, it can actually minus 3k when it attacks if you have a blue Digimon. So most of the time you have a blue so it will activate with the addition of its own minus DP skill already.
So on average, how many colors does your Chimera have?
I think most of the time there will be at least 3 to 4 at least, but it should be sufficient to clear the small volleys. And then also if let's say there's 4 colors, it's a 12k beater so which is very good, and it's also very easy because there's many dual color. So like this. So it's just very easy to activate to get the 4 color criteria.
Okay, so moving on to the level 6, which is actually the, I would say, face of the deck, Magnamon X himself.
Okay, so I play 4 Magna X because you definitely want to see it. So basically his skill is to let you do a pseudo armor purge. It dies, and then you will just go to the security. So I find that this deck is actually more so-called tankier than most decks, even though it's mostly an aggro deck. Yeah, so there's actually recovery in this deck, so it doesn't really you have longer games because there are games where you shouldn't have won, but you win because just of this heal. Yeah, and then but you have to have a armor card below in the Digivolution source to activate the effect. So if let's say somebody strips this cannot activate, yeah, which is unfortunate sometimes. Okay, then yeah, it's also a focus from digivolving from this guy, so there's also a lot of flexibility of this. So you can either digivolve from level 5 or just from Magna.
Okay, for Magnamon X, what do you think is actually one of the, I would say, good counters in this meta for yourself? Like, because it does have a redirect attack and the Digimon doesn't delete. So, do you think that this card alone counters BT9 meta?
I wouldn't say it counters many of the meta, but it definitely has a good chance against it. Like for example, the green deck, the Grandis deck that is topping a lot. Basically, if the Digimon has penetrate, piercing.
Yeah.
If the Digimon has piercing, you can direct it to it. This dies, and then there is no damage done because the Digimon doesn't actually die. So, and then most likely, if let's say you have a Magnamon below, you have another blocker. So it really just takes a lot of hit, and then the opponent has to think about how they actually have to clear this first before they do their OTK. Yeah.
So Magnamon X is actually a very strong card. But okay, to wrap up the deck list, we need to go through the Tamers and the options, which is actually I would say the pillars of the deck.
Okay, so I play 3 of these dual Tamer because this one is just good because if you have a Raydra and you're raising, you just gain 2 memory straight. If not, most of the time you at least gain 1 memory, which is pretty good. Also when, let's say you do Armor Purge, if this Digimon dies, you can purge this, the Vmon can digivolve into this, and then you can stand this guy again and he can attack again. So this allows multi-attacks in one turn, where else it shouldn't be possible without this card. And then of course there's 3 Davies, because setting to 3 is just a very good thing to have, so that your opponent can't choke you. And then the free search is good as well. There's you can search for this and another blue card, so there are times where you can get 2 cards at one go, it's very strong.
Okay, then for the options.
For the options, I run 3 Hammer Spark. Okay, because I still feel it's a pretty good combo extender. Like where else you can do the armor purge technique by gaining one more memory to attack again. Yeah, and in the off chance that it's in the security, it's pretty good to hinder your opponent's plans. Yeah. Okay, I played 3 of the Flame Rocket. So basically it gives, if you have an armor Digimon, you can cast it without caring about the color. So let's say if you have a green and blue Raydramon, you can still cast this, and he gain one. You give a dual color Digimon plus 1 security check. So I feel like this is quite important because it just pushes the game very quickly early if you have this in your hand. Yeah. So and also because the let's say you armor purge, he gets 2 check. You armor purge. If this guy dies, the attack still continues. So you'll get guaranteed at least 2 checks from this guy if you use just 1. So I think it's a pretty good effect. And then on security, it just deletes opponent's blocker, which there's not many blockers now, but there's a card. Let's say if you are fighting a mirror game where you're fighting another Magna, this actually just destroys their Magna immediately. And also, let's say Black Wall Grey. Black Wall Grey, sometimes they have the blocker as inherit, so that destroys them as well. But I wouldn't count on it. Yeah. Okay, then I play 2 of this card. Basically, you can pay the cost to digivolve into 1 Magnamon Digimon in its name. So you can either digivolve into the level 4 or level 6 Magna. So I find this card is actually pretty good because it just digivolves from a level 4, any level 4 into a Magna. So it just so what you can escalate it earlier. Let's say if you have a Raydra, you can just digivolve using this card into a Magna X or another Magna. Yeah, and then the security effect is like you add a Magnamon Digimon from your trash to your hand and add this card. So it actually recycles your Magnamon back if you manage to have this in your security.
Okay, and for your last option, I think it's very interesting because it's actually a niche card, but it's actually the Mega Death. So how has this Mega Death actually benefited you in the meta itself?
Okay, I find that I didn't actually want to run this because I feel like I should just be very aggressive. But I feel like because of many big damage dealers like the Grandis and Alphamon and all that, you have to find some way of removal because they're just very strong and they can just OTK you in 1 turn. So to have these 2 options at least to rest and return to the hand, I think it will slow them down quite a bit. So if it's in security, of course it's the best. If not, you need the Raydra or the Dual Tamer to activate this, which is still possible, but of course it's not ideal. Yeah, but having the option to remove big targets is good.
Okay, thank you for sharing your whole deck profile with me. So I do have 2 burning questions for you. The first question being, what is actually the, I would say, worst matchup for you in terms of Magnamon X?
I feel like the worst matchup will definitely be Yellow Hybrid or any control decks. It just feels like right now the Yellow Hybrid security control is too strong, and then once the newer variants play Dexmon, so Dexmon can actually clear all the armor release Digimon, and it's very hard to come back from there. Yeah, and then you don't do enough damage quickly enough, they will just run you out of the game.
Okay, so my last question to you is, what do you think, how do you think of this current BT9 meta?
I feel like right now there's quite a bit of OTK, so you need some decks that can last longer, but hopefully it doesn't get into the OTK kind of meta because Grandis and Alphamon can certainly do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys for watching till the end, and do consider subscribing, dropping a like and a comment if you guys do enjoy the content.